Hi, this is Andrew. Thanks for watching. This video covers IPv6 SLAAC, which is stateless address auto configuration, and also stateless DHCPv6. I'm going to be using Packet Tracer to perform most of the activities that show up in Lab 851. Packet Tracer isn't perfect because it's missing some of the features related to IPv6. In this case, it is DHCPv6 relay, but it's good enough to cover most of the things that we're going to be doing in the lab. So I'll start by building our lab environment. And if you look at the picture here, we have a PC, a switch, a router, another router, a switch, and a PC. So we're going to just start from the routers and work our way out. Down at the bottom, 4321, we're going to put a router there and a router there. And then we're going to move on to switches. We have 2960 switches. We're going to put two of those there, and just a little more compact than doing them in a straight line. And we'll do a PC here and a PC here. So let's move on to wiring it up. And all we have to do, in the picture we have gigabit 000 and 000 connecting the routers. So we're going to select 000, go over to 000, and just make them a little prettier by lining them up. Now let's go router, this is actually going to be R2, I'll change that in a second. Gigabit 001 goes to fast Ethernet 05. And then we have going to the PC, we are going from 018 down to our PC. So let's do the other side now. Gigabit 001, switch goes to 05, and we're going to go from 6 to the Ethernet. And just line them up a little bit better. And one other thing I'm going to do is just zoom, I will try to zoom in a touch. Maybe one more. Hopefully that's a little more visible on the screen. So now what I want to do is change these labels. And these aren't host names, these are just labels. These are equivalent to stickers you might put on the outside of it, so when you're looking at it, you know what you're working on. That one is R1. This one is R2, and now we have our switches, also S1 and S2, and then we have some PCs. We have PC A and PC B. Okay. So now where do we go from here? Let's just go through the lab. Obviously we have an address chart here, so this tells us what we're going to be assigning to the interfaces. We'll get to that in a minute. What I want to do first is connect to the routers. So I'm going to connect to this router. This one is R1. We'll enable and conf T, and now we're going to do a host name configuration because we want to just have R1. I'm going to do these one at a time. Now, this is not covering everything in the lab. There's still the stuff that you have to do in the lab. I'm just going to go over the basics of it so you can see the stuff that you've never done before. So, if we go through this configuration, obviously the switches you would need to configure on your own. This is step one. We've cabled and plugged everything in. Step two, configuring the switches. It is optional, and that's up to you or the class you're in whether you need to do that. So 3, we're going to do the router, but on the router, I obviously want to assign a name because I want to see if I'm in a command line what I'm working on. Obviously I can look up here, but just for the sake of doing things properly, I want to see that. I'm not going to bother going through any of the other settings on there that I don't critically need to make DHCPv6, Stateless, and SLAAC work. So I'm just going to start with this. But the one piece that I do need for that, if you go through, enable IPv6 routing. So we need IPv6 unicast routing, and that covers that for this router. So now let's go through and configure the IP addresses on the interfaces. We're going to start with, we'll start with interface gigabit 001. So we're looking at this router here, and 001 is this interface here. So that's the one that goes down to the PC. And if you remember back to the chart, I will scroll up quickly and show you. On R1, on gigabit 001, we have two IPv6 addresses. We talked about this in the previous video. And on 000, we have two IPv6 addresses, and so forth on R1, on R2. So, and if you look at them, the IPv6 addresses, the global unique addresses, and even the link local addresses are not the same on the two routers. So we just need to be careful of that one piece. So let's go back to our instructions, and we're going to configure interfaces on both routers. I'm on gigabit 001, as I said. I'm going to start with the link local address, that is that is IPv6 address, and that is FE80:1 and link local. Now let's do IPv6 address, and we're going to do the global unicast address, which is 2001 db8 acad 1:1/64. And that's everything there. Now, of course, we need to do a no shutdown on the interface, and there we went from red to green. So let's do the same or similar on gigabit 000. Interface G000, and here we have IPv6 address FE80:1 link local, and IPv6 address 2001 db8 acad:2, I believe, yes, 2:1/64. And just a little note, on this interface here on gigabit 1, basically, we have this fourth hex that is a 1, and on the other side of it, it's a 2, and we'll see as we get to the other side of this router 2, it's going to be a 3, because there are 3 networks there. So we have three IPv6 networks. So again, we need a no shutdown, and it is ready to go. So that is, let's go back to the section where we're doing our configuration. Configure interfaces. Now we did the first router, we need to do the second router, and we are going to need default routes. I'm going to configure the interfaces on router 2 before we do default routes. So we have enable conft. We're in configuration. We want to do, I'm going to do it from the PC side back to the middle again, just for consistency. That's G001, except I need to say it's an interface. There we go. Interface G001, IPv6 address is FE80:1. And since I'm on this side of R2, this side right here, that is FE80:1. When we get to the other side, I'll try over here. When we get to the other side, we need to make sure we don't do FE80:1 because that's already used on this link here by this interface. So we need to make sure we're using it FE80:2 on this interface. So that's that. IPv6 address is 2001 db8 ACAD 3:1/64. There is our that side, and then we can do a no shutdown, and we are coming up on this side. So the final interface we have to do is, and I'm just exiting out for no reason, but I don't need to exit. And now we're interface G000, and I'm going to do IPv6 is FE80, and as I've beaten into the ground now, this has to be different because one is already used. And I also need to put the full command address. Focus on things. Okay. And that is link local. There we go. And now IPv6 address 2001 db8 ACAD 2:, and again, one is already used by this interface, so this one needs to be 2, and that's the way it's labeled in the chart. And I forgot the /64. There we go. So now we're doing no shutdown, and they're coming back up. So next step, if we look at the instructions, configure interfaces and routing for both routers. We did the interfaces, and now let's do default route. And default route in IPv6 is the zero route, and because zeros don't need to be written, there's not much to write. IPv6 route. We're in the interface. Oops. Exit. IPv6 route. Let's take a step back. If I do the question mark here, there are 2 commands that start with route. That's why it's not tab completing for me. So it is route and then a space, and now I can actually put in the destination. And the destination is the anything else. So we do that. The :: gets rid of all the zeros, and the /0 gives us the 0 route. Now the instructions say configure default route on each router pointed to the IP address of G000 on the other router. So my default route, I'm on R2 now, that needs to be the interface on this side, the global unicast address. So that is 2001 db8 ACAD 2:1, because 1 is on R1. So let's see, that should work. And now let's just go do the same thing we just did on R1. So again, we're in interface. I'm going to exit out to here, and then we can do IPv6 route. And again, that is 2001 db8 ACAD. ACAD, and we're going to :2. Once again, 2 is the interface here, so that's the one I'm pointing to from R1. Okay, so now they have us, well, let's close them and read. Verify routing is working by pinging R2's, this router's G001 interface from R1. So we will do this, and I'm going to exit and ping 2001 db8 ACAD. I guess Siri wants to talk to me. ACAD, that is 3 :1. That is pinging from here to this interface, because it doesn't know about this interface other than that default route. It doesn't know it exists. It doesn't know that network exists. So what we're doing is seeing if the default route works. And it does. And obviously if we did the same thing from, well, maybe not so obviously, so let's just do it quickly. If we do the same thing from here, it will work as well. So ping 2001 DB8 ACAD 1 :1. That is this interface here from R2, which I never changed the host name, and I never enabled unicast routing either. So this probably won't work. Oh, it did. Okay, so let's go in and fix those issues that I had. We want to conft and call this now not having unicast routing on will cause other problems in a bit. So R2 and IPv6 unicast routing. Okay, I know you're all screaming at the screen saying you missed a step. Well, there, I caught up with it. So here we go. We did step 4. So now let's see if SLAAC is working. We can close all of these. What we want to do is actually go into the PCs and see what's happening. And if we go into the PC and we go into auto config, hey, we got addresses. And here, let's do it from PCB also and set auto config. And yes, we have addresses. Now, if you notice, we don't have a DNS address. That's what we're going to deal with next. But for now, actually, let's look at these addresses. And if everything's working, and this is always a good thing to test, we should be able to ping one PC from the other. So let's go in here. Let's go to this computer and 2001 DB8 ACAD 3. We are at PCA, so we're pinging the 3 network, and we are pinging 201.97 FF FED2 at 8C B7. Let's see if I typed it right. Hey, look at that. I typed it right. It pinged. It replied. We're all good. So let's, we don't need to ping from the other way because it's boring watching me try to read IPv6 addresses and type them. Here we go with the next step. So that is SLAAC. We have IP addresses that are configured. They would be able to talk. They'd be able to do stuff on the network. The next thing we want to do is stateless DHCPv6. So the one thing, as I said, that's missing from here, or one of the most critical things, we don't have a DNS server. So we're going to configure R1 to provide DNS. And we're not actually configuring a DNS server. We're just going to have it point to one and pick that up. So as we go through the directions, and just be aware that I'm not covering everything in the directions. I'm planning on covering the high points. It's up to you if you're doing this lab to fill in the low points or all of the other stuff on your own. So so we're in configuration mode, IPv6 DHCP pool, and we want to call it R1 stateless. Now we want to set DNS server, and we're going to set it to 2001 DB8 ACAD 254. Now, one thing to be aware of is that server doesn't exist anywhere in our topology, and that doesn't matter. All we're looking to see is that this shows up in our configuration. So I'm going to also, the other thing they really want us to do is give it a domain name. Just something else we can do. There are a bunch of other settings we could put in there, but we don't need to worry about them. And if we look at a question mark, we're in, yeah, actually not a lot of not many other things that they have configurable. So we're going to now tell it to listen on interface G001. That's the interface right here. So we're going to say, go to the interface, G001, IPv6. So what we're doing here is we're telling it to ND other config flag. That's just saying we're going to use DHCP, but we want to use the other configurations, which is saying stateless. We're not doing stateful. So we do that, and then we do IPv6 DHCP server, and we want to give it the same, the pool name that we gave earlier, R1 stateless. So we are hopefully have things working here. So the key thing we did is we put a DNS server in. If we go back to the PC and we basically, this is a way of just resetting everything. We go back to static, autoconfig. There is our DNS address that we added in the pool right there. Now, we don't have relay, so if we do anything with PCB, it is not going to show up there. We go static, autoconfig, it's not reaching there. Theoretically, we could have it reach there, we could do other things with it, or we could configure that same setting on R2. But that is getting SLAAC and stateless DHCPv6 working. We are not going to do the stateful. As I said, there are issues with they wanted to relay across, no relaying available. So that's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching.